ममाङ्गानि वाक् प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओमित्येतदक्षरमुद्गीतमुपासीत ओमिति ह्युद्गायते तस्योपव्याख्यानम् Now continue to page 226. Says Anandagiri, Advaitiyatva samarthanartham uttarvakyam utthapya vachaste Advaitiyatva samarthanartham sadeva somya idamagrasit ekameva advityam. That the sattva somya idamagrasit ekameva advityam. Because again asserted that way that truth is one without a second. Advitiyatva samarthanartham. So that is the primary statement of the Upanishad. Samarthanartham. For supporting that, for explaining that, or for confirming that also now is a subsequent passage. So how is it that there is only the truth, one and non-dual? How that is so? The statement is made all right. That Sat is, or Brahma is, one without a second. Fine. But when we see all this duality, diversity, how do you say that Brahman is one without a second? So how the diversity in fact is nothing but the manifestation of Brahman, not apart from Brahma. That has to be shown, established. Although Bhashyakara said that Karyam effect is nothing but samsthanantaram, nothing but a configuration of the Karanam, the Upadana Karanam. That so Sarpaha Kundali Bhavati, just a snake becomes a coil, or Mrut, or the clay also appears as Churnam, as a powder, as Mrut, as Pinda, as Ghata, etc., etc. So what we call the effect is nothing but another configuration of the material cause. So material cause appearing in a different configuration is called the effect. In which case, effect is not substantially different from the cause, meaning that the multiplicity of effect does not create duality. The manyness of the pots and pans, that does not create the duality in clay, still remains the non-dual. So, how there is non-duality in spite of duality? There is non-duality, you don't require that there should be absence of duality. It is non-duality in spite of duality. Not only in absence of duality, in spite of duality. और तदैक्षत बहुश्याम प्रजायति उत्तरम वाक्यम व्याचष्टे. So next vakya is tadaikshad बहुश्याम प्रजाय. That vakya, that statement is explained by Bhashyakara. So let us read the passage number 3 on this page 226. तदैक्षत बहुश्याम प्रजायेते तत्तेजो सृजत तत्तेज ऐक्षत बहुश्याम प्रजायेते तदपो सृजत तस्मात् यत्र क्वच शोचते स्वेदते वा पुरुषः तेजसहेव तत् अध्यापो जायन्ते. सदैव सौम्य idamagrasid. This universe was Sat, existence. Asti bhati priyam. 1 second before its creation, meaning it is so even now. So how is it so even now? To explain that is Tad Aikshata, that Devata, that Sat or Brahma, Aikshata, it saw, it deliberated. Bahusyam, may I become many, Prajaya, may I take birth. So may I become many, may I be born. That is how it deliberated. That kind of sankalpa happened. This is a very important statement. Occurs in several places. So kamayata bhaushyam prajayati. That ikshana vakyam, that Brahman or Paramatma deliberates, it sees. That is a very important statement, as Bhashyakara will show. Just to show that the ikshana kartru, or the one who deliberates, is a conscious entity. That Sat is a conscious entity and not an unconscious thing like Pradhanam. Bahusyam prajayeti, may I become many, may I be born. Iti. Tat tejaha asrujata. With that deliberation, this Devata Sat or Brahma created tejaha, fire. Tejas means light or fire was created. Tat tejaha aikshata. That tejaha, the fire in turn also, aikshata, it also saw, deliberated. Bahusyam prajayeti. That fire says, Bahusyam, may I become many. So similarly, just as Sat, the deity, deliberated, so also the first product, fire, also deliberated in the same way. Tat apaha asrujat. For that, the fire created, up means water. So how is the water born of fire? So this is the style of this Upanishad. Gives some very practical examples, demonstration to show how the water is a product of fire. Tasmad yatra kvacha shochati. Therefore, whenever a person shochati, when he grieves, when he becomes unhappy, sad, then there is tears coming out, Svedateva, or when he perspires, then also water emerges from the body. Purusha tejaseva tat apaha adhijayante. Understand that. So either you feel santapa, you feel very sad or, or grieving inside. then also the water comes out of your eyes. So when you are tormented by some emotional problem, then also the water emerges. Or when you feel very hot in your body, then the perspiration also emerges. In that sense, the water is the product of fire. This is their very simple way of saying things. So Vashyakara says, Tatsata Aikshata Iksham Darshanam Krutavata. Tat means what? Sat. That's Sat or Brahman. Aikshata, it's so Iksham meaning Darshanam Krutavat. It Darshanam Krutavat, it saw. It deliberated, it visualized. Says Anandagiri, Sat Shabdavacham Jagat Karanam Pradhanamiti Kechid. Kechid means Sankhyaha. The Sankhya say that the Sat does not mean Brahman. Sat means Pradhanam. This is what they say. Sat means Pradhanam. Jagat Karanam, and that is Jagat Karanam, that is the material cause of the universe. Iti Kechida, that's what the Sankhyas claim. Tadapi etena nirastam. So just as earlier, the view of the Vainashikas or the Shunyavadins was dismissed by the Upanishad, so also by the statement, the view of the Sankhyas that Pradhanam, the matter, is the Jagat Karanam, is being dismissed. Ataschayati. Or going to Abhinav Narayananandra says, Srushti Vakyasya na sruštau tatparyam tat pradipadane prayojana abhavat. This is important. This is what the Vedantic teachers explain. Srushti Vakyasya na sruštau tatparyam. Even though the Upanishad very elaborately describes the creation, understand that their heart is not in describing creation. The purpose is not to give any reality to describe creation or give reality to creation. So tat pratipadane prayojan abhavat. There is no prayojan, no purpose of describing creation. What is the purpose? Is to only emphasize the non-duality. So even if creation is described, the purpose of describing creation is to emphasize the non-duality. Kintu mrudadi drishtantena jagatah sat karyatvena sat advitiyatva pratipadane tatparyam. If the tatparya, the purport, is not in describing creation, then where is the purport? Kintu mrudadi drishtantena, by the illustration of the clay, etc. Jagatah sat karyatvena. So just as the pots and pans are the product or effect of the material cause which is clay, so also Jagat is the effect of the material cause which is Sat. And therefore, in spite of the parts being many, how clay remains one non-dual, so also in spite of the names and forms being many, how Sat remains one and non-dual. Sat advitiyatva pratipadane tatparyam. That sarvam khalvidam Brahma, all this is Brahma. That is where the tatparya is all the time. There also in Taittiriya Upanishad, Tasmad vai tasmad atmanah akasha sambhuta akashad vayu. From that Brahman, which is this self, this space was evolved, emerged from space, air. So all the description is there. What's the purpose of the description? To describe that at every stage it is Brahman. So what is Brahman. Acharyavan Purusho Veda Tasya Tavadeva Charam Iri Advitiyatva Jnanat Moksha Pratipadanat. Acharyavan Purusho Veda, the Purusha person who is Acharya, alone comes to gain the knowledge. Tasya tavadeva chiram. Having gained the knowledge, he has to wait only that long until the body drops off. So, iti advitiyatva jnanat. In this manner, it is knowledge of non-duality, which is so meaning that knowing the oneness of the self with Brahman, that Brahman is my own self. So that knowledge of that non-duality is the means of moksha. Naivam ikshana pratipadanasya kinchit prayojanam iti ashankya. Somebody says, then what's the purpose of this story? Tadaikshata, that Brahman or Sat, that it saw, it visualized, it deliberated. What purpose does that serve? That passage also does not seem to serve any purpose. Iti navachyam. That's how it should have been said. Iti ashankya. Somebody says that this also does not have a purpose to serve. Iti ashankya. Karanasya achetanatva vyavrutyartham tat iti aha. So Vashyakara says the purpose of saying that Sat or Brahman deliberated, visualized, saw, the purpose is to say that Brahman or Sat is conscious entity. Karanasya achetana vyavrutyartham. That Karanam, material cause of the universe, is not unconscious, that it is a conscious entity. Atasyedi. So Vashyakara says, Atascha na pradhanam sankhya parikalpitam jagat karanam pradhanasya acetanatva abhyupagamad. Atasya na pradhanam sankhya parikalpitam jagat karanam. Therefore, sankhya parikalpitam pradhanam na jagat karanam. Sankhyas imagine an entity called pradhanam. It's all imagination. Everything other than Sat is imagination. And therefore, to imagine there is something called pradhanam, which is an independent entity, is an imagination. Pradhanam is primordial matter. That there is a primordial matter that enjoys an independent reality is an imagination. Therefore, Sankhya Parikalpitam. Parikalpitam, imagined by Sankhyas. The Pradhanam, na Jagat Karanam. That Pradhanam is a jada, inert, unconscious entity that cannot be Jagat Karanam, that cannot be the cause of the universe. Why? Pradhanasya acetanatva abhyupagamat. Because the Sankhyas say that Pradhanam, the primordial matter, is acetanam, is unconscious. Says the Tikakara, tadartham karanasya satah chetanatvam sadhayati tadartham. So acetanatva vyavrutyartham. That the Jagat Karanam, the cause of creation, is not unconscious. For that, Karanasya satah chetanatvam sadhayati. That Karanam, Sat, which is the cause of creation, is conscious entity. So, Karanatvam sadhaya, chetanatvam sadhayati. That Sat is chetanam, idantu iti. So, Vashyakara says, idantu Sat chetanam ikshitritvat. Idantu Sat. This Sat, however, is chetanam, is conscious entity, ikshitritvat. Because ikshitra, it visualizes, it sees. Therefore, this seeing, deliberation can only be on the part of a conscious entity. A matter, inert thing cannot deliberate, cannot think. Then Vashyakara continues, तत्कथम ऐक्षत इत्याह बहु प्रभूतं स्याम भवेयं प्रजायेय प्रकर्षेण उत्पद्येय यथा बुद्घटाद्याकारेण यथा वा रज्ज्वादि सर्पाद्याकारेण बुद्धिपरिकल्पितेन तत्कथम ऐक्षत. How did that Sat Aikshata, how did it see? How did it visualize? If that's a question, then Aha Upanishad replies that question. Bahu Syam. Bahu means Prabhutam, many. So Prabhu Syam, may I become Bhavet. So Bhaveyam, rather, that may I become many. Prajaya, may I be born. Prakarshena Utpadyeya, may I be born in an excellent manner. Prakarshena. So says the Tika, Ekasya Abhikrutasya Katham Bahubhavanamiti Ashankya Vikaradvarani Vaktum Prajayati Uktam Sutau Tadvyachasya Prajayati. Ekasyeva Avikrutasya. But Sat is Avikrutam, is changeless. Consciousness, this is the whole problem. The Upanishad says that consciousness is the material cause of the creation. That conscious being is an efficient cause, is a maker or creator, is understandable. But that the consciousness is the material cause. Now, material cause should undergo a change or transformation to become the effect. Whereas consciousness cannot undergo any transformation. How can it be the material cause? Meaning that the effect cannot be real. Because the cause cannot undergo a real transformation, therefore the effect cannot be real. It can only be projection, that's all. So this proves that what we call world is projection, it is mithya. So, buddhi parikalpitena, Bhashyakara says. What will effect is nothing but the buddhi parikalpitam, is something imagined by the buddhi, just as Bhashyakara says, the snake is imagined or projected upon the rope, so also the world of name and form is projected upon Sat or existence. So, prakarshena jaya utpadye. Prakarshena iti तथा च विद्यमानस्यैव आधिक्यं प्रकर्ष इति लोक प्रसिद्धिः. Prakarsh means excellence. Excellence can be of something which already existing, cannot be of non-existence. Therefore, so vidyamanasya adhikyam prakarsha iti loka prasiddhi. Prakrute cha mayayaha eva adhikatvat Maya ekasyeva satah says bahu vachanam bahu bhavanam iti bhavaha. Prakrutecha. So in our case, what is the matter? What is the nature of being born in an excellent manner? Maya eva adhikatvat. So it is Maya alone really that becomes prakarsha, that alone becomes adhika or great. Maya ekasyeva satah bahubhavanam iti bhavaha. It is not that Sat becomes many in a real sense. By Maya, Sat appears as many. When you say Maya bahubhavanam, meaning that the bahubhavanam, becoming many, is not in the true sense, the primary sense. Maya only creates an appearance of becoming many in Sat, that's all. Etena bahubhavana sankalpena ikshणेन च अभिन्न निमित्त उपादानत्वं प्रतीयमानपि Maya eva. Etena bahubhavana sankalpena ikshanena cha. By ikshanam, this visualization, this seeing of becoming many, avinna nimittopadanatvam pratiyamanam. Sat being conscious entity is nimitta karanam. Upanishad says it becomes many, is upadana karanam. The Sat is presented as avinna nimitta upadana karanam. Then only the non-duality can be established. Mattah paratanam nanyat kinchit asti Dhananjaya. Hey Dhananjaya, there is no cause other than me. Meaning I am both the maker as well as material. If maker and material are one, then alone there can be non-duality. If material is separate from maker, then there is duality. As Sankhya say, the material pradhanam is different from Purusha, the consciousness, a conscious being. Thus they accept duality. Vedanta does not accept duality. So abhinna nimittopadanatvam pratiyamanapi maya eva. To call Brahman abhinna nimittopadana karanam, it is both nimitta, efficient, and upadana, material cause. So that causality, that Brahman is the cause, itself is by Maya. The causality to Brahman is only attributed due to Maya. In fact, no change has happened at all. So Brahman is not the cause also in a primary sense. Maya, you can say, is the so adhikyam. The manyness happens where? In Maya. So Brahman just becomes indirectly the cause, not directly. Directly, Maya alone is the cause of becoming many, etc. Therefore, na advitiyatva kshatihi ityapi drashtavyam. Therefore, na advitiyatva kshatihi. There is no harm to advitiyatva or non-duality. Bhashyakara gave two examples. Yatha mrud ghatadi akarena yatha rajvadi sarpadi akarena buddhi parikalpitena utpadyeya, also prakarshana utpadyate. How mrud of the clay, so utpadyate, it gets born in ghatadi akarena, the form of ghata, etc. Yathava rajvadi, how the rope is born as snake, etc. But what? Buddhi parikalpitena, only as projected by the mind. There is no, in case of the rope snake, it is very clear that the snake is the projection of mind. But in case of the pot pants also, Vedanta only accepts vivarta karanam, does not accept the parinami karanam at all. There is no parinama. In the fundamental thing, there is no parinama. No, but the example is that the milk becomes a curd, so it has changed. Vedanta says that the milk which is formed has changed to curd which is formed, but the milk, the fundamental substance that is there in the milk, the fundamental particle remains the same in the curd also. That does not change. That molecule, which atom doesn't change. Same atoms get rearranged to become curd, that's all. Therefore, there cannot be any real transformation. All there is projection of one form. So formerly the particles were in the form of milk. Now they are in the form of curd. That's the only difference. In any case, parinama angikarena prathama drishtantah vivartavadena dvitiya. So two drishtanta given, yatha mrut ghatadhyakarena. So that is the parinama angikarena, accepting parinama, at the superficial level, that's the example. And vivartavadena dvitiya. But when Bhashyakara is buddhi parikalpitena, then there is no parinama, Bhashyakara is buddhi parikalpitena. So even clay also gets transformed as pots, etc., only as imagined by the mind. So there is no transformation there also really. Anjanagiri also says the same thing. Iksha purvakayatvad atascha. So atascha means therefore. न सांख्य परिकल्पितम प्रधानम जगत कारणम इक्षा पूर्वकारित्वात् because the creation precedes by ikshanam or by seeing or visualization. अचेतनत्व अभियोगवाद न तस्य इक्षा पूर्वकम सृष्टुत्वमिति शेषः. So प्रधानस्य अचेतनत्व अभ्युपगमात्, you should add there, न तस्य इक्षा पूर्वकम srashtutvam. Therefore, pradhanam, even if it creates, cannot create as preceded by iksha. Even if we claim that pradhanam creates the universe, still it cannot be by ikshanam because pradhana is not capable of ikshanam or seeing or deliberation. Bahusyam ityadi shruti tatparyam vaktum निरस्तमेव चोद्यम उद्भावयति असदेवयति. बहुश्यामिति श्रुति तात्पर्यं वक्तुम. बहुश्याम प्रजाय may I become many. What is the तात्पर्य? What is the purport when Shruti says that Brahman saw or deliberated, may I become many? What is the intention? What is the तात्पर्य of Shruti? That's what Bhashyakara wants to bring out. For that, Nirastameva chodyam udbhavayati. For that, the doubt, which already resolved earlier, is again brought up. Just to clarify or explain what is the purpose of Bahubhavanam. Or Narayananda says, Jagatah Rajju Sarpatulyatve Asatvam Shankate. Or you can look at it differently. Jagatah Rajju, so you said, Buddhi Parikalpitena. So this Bahubhavanam, becoming many, is like rope, becoming snake and garland, etc., which are all projection. If this is projection, then Jagatah Rajju Sarpa Tulyatve. If according to you, Jagat also is Rajju Sarpa, but Rajju Sarpa is not there, so Jagat also is not there, then Asatvam Shankate. Somebody says that, do you mean that the creation is non-existent? Asadeva Vedan, Bhashyakara says. Asadeva tarhi sarvam yadgrushyate rajjuh iva sarpadi akarena. So question is, Asadeva tarhi saram yadgrushyate, then whatever is perceived, whatever is experienced, Asadeva is non-existent. Yadgrushyate means what? Whatever is perceived, in that case, is like Rajju Sarpa, meaning non-existent. Is that what the Upanishad means to say? Says Anandagiri, Bahusyam Prajaya iti anena ikshitu heva karyakara pattivachanena vaisheshikadimatam etan nirastamidi shuritatvam darshan uttaramaha. Bahusyam Prajaya iti anena ikshitu heva karyakara pattivachanena. That may I, he says, may I become many? Bahusyam, may I become many, means what? The Ikshana Karta, the one who is seeing alone says I become many. That is not Ikshitru, meaning that Ikshitu heva Bahubhavanam. Meaning one who sees Sat alone becomes many, understand? So, Bahusyam, may I become many. Who says? The Ikshana Kartru. Meaning the Sat or the consciousness which actually sees, says, may I become many. So becoming many is on the part of consciousness, meaning consciousness is a upadana karanam, because just as clay becomes many, here the consciousness becomes many. So karyakara pattivachanena. So again, it is Sat alone that becomes the effect, Jagat. Therefore, vaisheshikadi matam etan nirastam iti. Therefore, it is not the Vaisheshika. the creator is different, the creation is different. That's not so. That matam is refuted here. Na ityadina. Or, as the other Tikakara says, Rajju Sarpadeya api adhisthanaatmakatvena satyatvat na satyatvam iti aha. He says yat means yadi. So, yad gruhyade, yadi gruhyade, that's interesting. Rajju Sarpadeya api. The Vedantin says that even Rajju Sarpa also is not non-existent. Rajju Sarpa also is not non-existent. Why? Adhisthanaatmakatvena satyatvat. Even that snake also, because the reality of snake is in the rope, therefore rope also, in that sense, snake also is real, not non-existent. So Purnat Purnamudachyade, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva avashishyade. So when you say that this universe also is Purnam, Purnat Purnamudachyade, from Purna Brahma, the Purna universe comes. How can they? So universe is Purnam, not from the standpoint of name and form, from the standpoint of the Adhishthanam, the substratum, Asti Bhati Priyam. So Jagat also, you cannot say is non-existent, is very much existent. Is very much real from the standpoint of the Adhishthanam or the substratum. So now Bhashyakara says, so both the Tikakaras are interpreting the Bhashya somewhat differently. Make note of that. Na satah eva dvaita bhedena anyatha gruhyamanatvad na asatvam kasyachita kvachita iti brumah. So asadeva tani sarvam. So all of this that we perceive, is it all non-existent? Says no, not right. Sataheva dvaita bhedena anyatha gruhyamanatvat. So what you perceive, the names and forms is what? The names and forms in Jagat that is perceived is Sat. Sataheva anyatha gruhyama dvaita bhedena. Because Sat alone has become many. So Sat alone is perceived as the world of names and forms. So anyatha gruhyamanatvat. Only thing is now you do not appreciate Sat as Sat. Now appreciate Sat as the world of names and forms. That's all it is. So anyatha gruhyamanatvat. Sat alone is being many. It is now perceived or experienced in a different way. But what you are experiencing is nothing but Sat. You think that you are looking at table, you are perceiving tables and chairs and this and that. What? There is only Sat. You think that you are actually experiencing pots and pans, but you are experiencing only clay. Or you think that you are experiencing snake, but what you are really experiencing is rope. And so also you think that you are experiencing names and forms, but really you are only experiencing Sat, because Sat alone has become these names and forms. So anyatha sataheva anyatha gruhyamanatvat na sattvam kasyajit kvachit iti bruma. Therefore, nothing is non-existent, never. Nothing and never is non-existent. All there is existence. So kasyachit is what? Drishtantasya darshtantikasya va ityartha. This is drishtanta of Rajju Sarpa, that there is non-existence, or darshtanta, in case of the creation also, there is no question of non-existence. All there is existence only. Pratyuta karanat karyasya bheda pakshe eva asatvam karyasya syadi abhiprayana. But Vaisheshikas, same as Naiyayikas, as we discussed yesterday, they take the karyam, the effect, as different from material cause. They say that pot is different from clay. They say that the pot is not in the clay. Pot is different from clay. Therefore, pot is non-existent in clay. Pot is non-existent in clay. And thus they imagine that the effect is different from material cause. So Vedantin says that if the effect is different from material cause, but material cause is Sat, if the effect is different from Sat, then it is Asat, then it is non-existent. So Pratyut, on the other hand, Karanat Karyasya Bheda Paksheva, if Karanam, the effect is Bhedam, different, excluding the Karanam or the material cause, then Asatvam Karyasya Syat, that Karya effect itself becomes non-existent. Suppose you say that this pot is different from clay, then where is pot? If pot is different from clay, meaning that take away the clay, what remains in pot is nothing. So if the Jagat is different from Sat, then it is what Asat. So that way, in fact, by your opinion, the Jagat will become unreal, non-existent, not by our opinion. Yatha iti. Or tadeva prapancha iti, that explains Yatha iti, Bhashyakara says. Yatha satah anyat vastvantaram parikalpya punaha tasyeva pragutpattehe pradvamsach urdhvam asatvam bruvate tarkikaha nitatha asmabhihi kadachit kvachidapi satah anyat abhidhanam abhidheyam va vastu parikalpyate sadevatu sarvam abhidhanam abhidhiyate cha yat anya buddhya. So what these Tarkikas or Vaisheshikas imagine that according to them the effect such as a pot is not there in clay, meaning that the pot was non-existent before its creation. That's called Praga Abhava, the prior non-existence, the non-existence before creation. Then Pradvamsa Bhava, they say that the pot does not exist after destruction also. It's called Pradvamsa Bhava, the posterior non-existence. So, they parikalpya, yatha satah anyat vastvantaram parikalpya. These Vaisheshikas, Nayayikas imagine something different from existence. How do you imagine? How do they arrive at this non-existence is a good question. Parikalpya. But they imagine that the effect is something different from cause. So our Swami will say, can you visualize a shirt without fabric? Can you visualize a pot without clay or some substance? If nothing else, at least the newspaper must be there for a shirt, you know. He will say, avara, that's how you see, you know. Some material must be there. You cannot imagine an effect without some material. An effect separate from material becomes non-existent. You cannot visualize that. How do these people visualize? Parikalpya. So imagining, that's how. They imagine that there is no pot before its creation, there is no pot after after destruction. We say that the pot exists as clay before creation, the pot exists as clay after destruction also. Punah tasyeva pragutpatte pradvamsat urdhvam utpatte prag, before creation, pradvamsat urdhvam, after destruction. Asatvam bruvate. Nayayikaha, the Tarkikaha, they say that the effect is non-existent before creation, after destruction. Nitatha asmabhihi kadachit kvasidapi satah anyat abhidhanam abhideyam vastu parikalpyate. But we never imagine that abhidhanam, the name, abhideya, the object. So pada and artha. Abhidhanam, pada. Abhideya is artha, padartha. So neither name or form ever exists apart from Sat. We never imagine. Kadachit, kvasidapi, kadachit, never, kvachit, nowhere. Do you imagine that there are these names and forms that are separate from Sat or existence? Look at the tika on the line 33. Satah karanat sata anyatidanena karyasya sthiti kalebi sadbhedavad asatvam darshitam. Sadbhedat asatvam darshitam. So for the Vaisheshikas and Naiyayikas, satah karanat satah anyatidanena. That Sat is the karanam, and that karyam or the effect stands apart from the cause. That means that the Jagat stands apart from Sat or existence. By that, karyasya sthiti kalebi, then now also is non-existent. So if Jagat stands separate from existence, then what is it? It is non-existent even now. So the Naiyayikas say that the effect is non-existent before creation. It is non-existent after destruction. But by saying that the effect is different from Sat, in effect they are saying that it is non-existent even at a time of continuance. You follow? So they say that effect is there now. It did not exist before. It will not exist later. But Vedanta insists even now also it does not exist according to you. If the effect is different from cause, different from Sat, then effect is non-existent even now also. So, Bhedat, Sthiti Kalebi, Sad Bhedat, Asatvam Darshitam, Nacha Tat Kale, Satta Vishishtatvena, Satyatvam Iti Vachyam. Then the Vaisheshika says, no, at the time of continuance, it is different from Sat, but Sat Vishishtam, it is qualified by existence. Sat is a Vishesha, it is a Vachyam. Samanyadehe asatva prasangat. If Vishesha is Sat, then Samanya becomes Asat. Tesham cha swarupa sattangikare cha saratra tathaiva prasangah. Tesham cha swarupa sattangikare. But if you say that they exist because it's swarupa, then they exist all the time. Kana satya eva saratra satta upattau अनेक स्वरूपाणाम सत्वंगीकारे गौरव दस्यादि भावः. Then everything, see, all the pots and pans. Now what happens is they say that the effect is different from cause, meaning every pot is different from clay. So it's different from clay but qualified by clay. So every pot exists as qualified by clay. That means so many existences you would imagine. If the names and forms are different from Sat, then they are qualified by Sat. They are not Sat by Swarupa. In that case, everything is qualified by Sat, Sat, Sat. That means that so many Sat is there, qualifications. So that's what Gauravam. So many Sat I have to imagine, whereas one Sat alone can explain it. Again, the Tikakara continues on page 227. Nanu abhidhan abhideyo anangikare ghatapadadi vyavahara vilopasya sankhya. Hey Vedantin, you do not accept the name and form in reality. What does Vedanta say? That name and form are real from the standpoint of cause which is existence understand. Name and form are not real not existent from the standpoint of name and form. But names and forms are also existent or real from the standpoint of Sat or the cause. So now you are saying that name and form do not exist. Nanu abhidana abhideyo. Abhidana means name, abhideya means form, abhidana means nama, abhideya means nami. So abhidana means name, abhideya is what is named, which is the object. Anangikare ghatapadavi vyavahara vilopasyat. If name and form is, name is not there, then how do you call it ghata? How do you call it pata? How do you call it pustakam, So these names are not there according to you. Then when you say hey, there is no name, how will you identify this object from the other object? Ghatapadavi vyavahara vilopasyat. You can't say ghata, you can't say pata. They are all abhidanam, they are all names. According to the names there is no satta. Iti ashinkya sataheva bhantya abhidanadirupen pratimanasya vyavahara vishayatvat. He says no, that sat alone by bhranti appears as ghata and pata and matha. All the names which appear are nothing but sat. So sat alone by bhranti, by delusion, is thought called ghata. Sat alone is called pata. Sat alone is called matha by bhranti. Not recognizing sat as sat, you are calling ghata pata matha. That's all it is. The fact that the objects seem to be distinct from each other, that distinction is because you do not recognize the oneness among them. Just as different ornaments gain different names, like you call it bangle and earring, etc., is because you fail to recognize the gold. So gold alone by bhranti comes to be called a bangle. Gold alone by bhranti comes to be called a bracelet or necklace or whatever. Similarly, sat alone comes to be called by bhranti as ghata, as pata, as matha. So whatever object you are naming, nothing, it is sat alone that is named because of bhranti. Sataheva bhrantya abhidanadi rupena pratimanaswad. By bhranti, sat alone appears as abhidhanam, abhideyam. Therefore, vyavahara vishayatvat. So sat becomes vyavahara vishayam. So that is called creation. Sat or Brahman, which actually is beyond name and form, beyond word and thought also. What is creation? Sat becomes vyavahara vishayam, becomes object of the word and thought. Abhidhana and abhideya. So abhidhana is name, abhideya is form, name is shabda, and form is the vritti. So yato vaso nivardante aprapya manasa saha. So vang and manas. Abhidhanam is vang, name is vak, speech, and other is the thought. So the speech and thought, all of this is nothing but, So that is how sat alone becomes the vyavahara. So is sat or existence or Brahman or God or Ishvara. He wants to become the object of transaction. As the Ishvara is, as Asti Bhadi Prem, it cannot become the object of transaction, meaning you cannot see it, you cannot hear it. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati. So what does Ishvara do? By His grace, in order that we can experience it, that He manifests Himself as all these names and forms. So Ishvara, who is beyond vyavaharyam, becomes what? Vyavahara vishaya. So sataha eva vyavahara vishayatvat. So that's called creation. When Bhagavan, who is of vyavaharya, becomes vyavahara vishaya. Na ayam dosha. Therefore, there is no question of the name and form being non-existent. By bhranti, as the sat alone appears as name and form, therefore they are existent that way. So Vashyakara is sadeva tu sarvam abhidanam abhidiyate cha yat anya buddhya. You think that you are looking at a pot, you think you are looking at a cloth, you think that you are looking at a matha or a room or a table or a chair. In fact, you are only looking at sat, only experiencing sat. So yat anya buddhya, what we think is different from sat is alone, sat alone only is taken as name and form. So sarvam abhidhanam abhidiyate cha. Sat alone is all the name, Sat alone is all the form. That's all it is. Then says the Tikakara, or says Annagiri, Pratignyatamartham matadvayanusarana drishtantnabhyam spashtayati. Pratignyatamartham, that what is Sat. Sat alone is by Bhranti thought to be name and form. That is Pratignya. By Drishtanta, Bhashyakara explains that. Matadvaya, what is Matadvaya? Parinami Upadana Karanam, Vivarta Upadana Karanam. By these two, so two examples are again given by Bhashyakara. Yatha Rajjuviti. So Bhashya says, Yatha Rajjureva Sarpa Buddhya Sarpa iti Abhidhiyate Yathava Pindaghatadi Mrudaha Anya Buddhya Pindaghatadi Shabdena Abhidhiyate Loke. Yatha Rajjuheva Sarva Buddhya Sarva iti Abhidhiyate. In case of the rope snake, when you say this is a snake, what is called snake? Rajju alone, because that's all the thing that is what is there. In fact, the vastu which is there is Rajju. So when you say this is a snake, it is rope alone, that is mentioned, that is experience. So Sarva Buddhya Abhidhiyate. So rope alone in fact is called snake. So rope alone gets the name snake. So Sat alone, Mrut alone gets the name Ghata. Or Yathava Pindaghatadi Mrudaha Anya Buddhya. Or clay is there is a lump, there is Ghata or a pot, etc., which is thought to be different from clay. Pindaghatadi Shabdena Abhidhiyate. It is clay alone which is thought taken, so which is called a lump. It is clay alone which is called a pot. So also it is Rajju alone that is called Sarpa. Similarly, it is Sat alone that is called Jagat. It's a very, very important discussion, understand? Because the whole purpose is to reveal or to explain Advaitiyatvam, non-duality. Not only was the universe Sat or non-dual before its creation, but that it remains non-dual even during its continuation. The Naiyayikas say that the Jagat did not exist before creation, will not exist after destruction. Says no, Jagat very much existed as Sat, and now also it exists only as Sat. So earlier also reality was Sat, and now also the only reality is Sat and nothing else. So Anya Buddhya Grihyamanam. You think that it is different from Sat or Brahman, but what it is Brahman alone. That comes we call as Ghata and Pata and Matha. There is a Tika, Ghatadehe Sat Anya Buddhi Vishyatve Anyatve Sati Vastutvam Yasadhyashankya Sad Vivekanantaram Ghatadikaryasya Abhavat. Bhashyakara says, Yat Anya Buddhya Grihya, so Gruhyate Loke. Ghatadehe Sat Anya Buddhi Vishayatve Anyatve Sati. If the pot, etc., is thought to be different from Sat or existence, then Vastutvam Syat, then you would accept that the Ghata Pata also exists on their own. In that case, they also become real. Ita Ashankya Sad Viveka. So right now that's how it is. Right now, we think that a Ghata exists on its own. A Pata exists on its own. Every object exists on its own. Every object exists by itself. It is real. So it is true. Because of bhranti, because of delusion, every name and form or object is taken to be real. But then sad vivekanantaram, only when viveka is done, ghata adi karyasya abhavat, we find when you really inquire, what is this pot? As long as you do not inquire what is this pot, so long the pot appears to be real as a pot. When you inquire into what is this pot, then it turns out to be clay, it turns out to be molecules, turns out to be atoms, turns out to be subatomic particles, turns out to be Sat. So therefore, Sad Vivekanantaram, if you really spend time with anything, if you just take it superficially, gloss over everything, you gloss over everything, just superficially only deal with everything, do not take time to look into what the thing is. So Sad Vivekanantaram, when you actually have the Viveka, when you inquire into the true nature of what is, then you find that it is nothing but Sat. Similarly also the rope snake, as long as you don't inquire, you think that it is snake, snake is real, yeah. In Bhranti, snake as though gets reality. So snake is real as long as Bhranti is there, delusion is there. Only when the Rajju Viveka is there, then the snake is no more there. So Sad Vivekanantaram Ghata Adhikaryasya Abhavat. So when you realize that this is only Asti Bhati Priyam, then Ghata doesn't remain at all, and it doesn't remain a real entity at all. What is this? Asti Bhati Priyam. Therefore, Aviveka Matra Sharirattvena Brahmatvam. Therefore, these names and forms of reality, as long as Aviveka is there, Brahma is there, it is Sadushtantamaha Rajju Viveka iti. So Bhashyakara says, Rajju Viveka Darshinam tu Sarpa Abhidhana Buddhi Nivartete Yatha cha Mrd Viveka Darshinam Ghatadi Shabda Buddhi Tadvata Sad Viveka Darshinam Anya Vikara Shabda Buddhi Nivartete Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasa Saha Iti Anirukte Anilayane Ityadi Shrutibhyah. Rajju, so Yatha Rajjureva Sarvabuddhya Sarpaheti Abhidhiyate. In Rajju alone, that is called snake. So what you call snake is nothing but rope alone is called snake because of Bhranti. Then Rajju Viveka Darshanam tu. But for those who Rajju Viveka, who really take time to inquire into what is the reality of this so-called snake, so that is where the rishis come in. That is the scientists come in. They take time to inquire and understand things. Then they realize that all these different particles of matter are nothing but the waves of energy. That's what they see then. You have to take time. That the sun appears to be traveling from east to west. When you really look at it, take time to understand what the reality is. You find that the sun is standstill, whereas the earth is traveling from west to east. Nobody would have known, like us, nothing would be known. Simply looking at superficially, and just taking as if, then nothing, no truth will be known at all. So rishis in fact spend time. What is it? Scientists are spending time that all this matter is nothing but one fundamental particle, whatever that is. And so also the Vedantins say that what all is nothing but the Asti Bhati Priyam. That's what it is. So therefore, Rajju Viveka Darshanam tu sarpa abhidhana buddhi nivartete. So when the rope snake is inquired into, and when one realizes that what there is rope, then sarpa abhidhana, the name sarpa and the thought sarpa are no more than. So when the object is realized, recognized as rajju, then the snakeness is gone, and therefore in your mind also, the name snake and the form snake and the thought snake is gone. Abhidhana buddhi, abhidhana means name snake, buddhi the thought, nivartete. Yathacha, mrud viveka darshanam. So also, this is a pot, and this is a pitcher, and this is a plate, all the different names are given. But mrud viveka darshanam, when you realize that all of these are nothing but mrud or clay. Ghatadi shabda buddhi nivartete. Then it is no more remains ghata, the name ghata, the thought ghata, they disappear. In the wake of the appreciation that this is clay. Or the name, the snake and the thought snake disappear in the wake of the appreciation that this is a rope. So also, tadvata sad viveka darshanam. Similarly also those who realize that this is sat viveka darshanam. Those people who go into the root of the matter recognize that the fundamental reality is Sat. Sat Viveka Darshanam. Anya Vikara Shabda Buddhi Nivartete. So we think that this clock is independently existing, this table is independently existing. But then, anya vikara shabda buddhi nivartete. When one sees that all there is sat, then the objects lose the name and the thought. What is the name then sat? What is the thought sat? When the snakeness goes, what's the name? Rajju. And what's the form sat? And the thought also is Rajju. Or the name is clay, the thought also is clay. The name is sat, the thought also is sat. Anandagiri says, Ajnana Anvaya Vyatirikabhyam Rajju Sarpade Ajnanamayatve. Ajnana Anvaya Vyatirikabhyam. What is Ajnana Anvaya? As long as Ajnanam is, what is Ajnana Vyatirika? When Ajnanam is not there. So, Rajju Sarpade. As long as the ignorance of rope is, so long the rope snake is. When the ignorance of the rope goes away, then the rope snake goes away. See, the rope snake is as long as ignorance of rope is. The rope snake goes when the ignorance of rope snake goes. Sanvaya Vyatirika. Therefore, rope snake is Ajnanamaya, meaning merely a product of ignorance. Dvaita Abhiniveshasya Sanmatra Viveke. Similarly also, the Dvaita is there, so it is nothing but Sat. Sanmatra Viveke. It is ignorance of Sat that only gives the reality of Dvaita. In knowledge of Sat, the Dvaita has no more reality. So Dvaita Abhiniveshasya Sanmatra Viveke Satyeva. The attachment or preoccupation with duality goes away. It also Ajnanamaya Sanmatra Viveke Sati Eva Utpattehe Vicharena Tad Viveke Cha. Sanmatra Aviveke Sati. So similarly, the Dvaita is a product of Aviveka, non-discrimination of Sat, and Utpatte Sati Eva Utpatte Vicharena Tad Viveke Cha Anutpatte. Then the duality is no more there when the Viveka takes place. Dvaitamapi Ajnanamayeva. So just as by Anvaya Vyatireka you realize that the rope snake is only a product of ignorance, so also by the Viveka of Sat you realize that this duality also is a product of ignorance only. So ajnanameva tasya tattvam sanmatram adhishthanam. If the duality is product of ignorance, then what's the reality? Sanmatram, it is only Sat. What is it? Adhishthanam. Because this name and form are superimposition. Vang manasa atitam ityartha. Vak and manas. Vak is a nama and manas is thought. Thought means before, beyond name and form. So Vang manasa atitam. Then this world becomes what? The Sat becomes beyond name and form, beyond word and thought actually. Tasya Vang manasa atitatve pramanamaha. How do you say that Sat is beyond the word and thought? So Taittiriya Upanishad yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa sah yatah. From where vacha nivartante, from where the speech returns. Manasa sah, along with the thought. From where the name returns along with the thought, meaning that is beyond the name and thought. Says the Tika Narayana here, Iyam Shruti Nirupadike Shuddhe Vang Manasayo Nivrittim Darshayati. What does the Shruti say? Nirupadike Shuddhe. Nirupadikam Brahma, meaning that Brahman without name and form, Sat without name and form is beyond name as well as thought. So Nirupadike Shuddhe. And Shuddha Brahmani Vang Manasayo Nivrittim Darshayati. That speech and thought have no reach to the Nirupadikam Brahma, Brahman beyond the Upadhi. Speech and word have their activity only in that level Upadhi. Tatha videsati vivikte jnate sanghata ityadi shabd buddhyopi nivrittim darshayati. Tatha videsati vivikte jnate. So that being the case, vivikte jnate. So when that nirupadikam tattvam is separated from the name and form, and when you know it as a reality, then san ghataha ityadi shabda buddhyapi nivrittim darshayati. Ghata no more remains. San ghataha, that pot is, the pot loses isness because isness goes to Sat. Anyatha ukta shabda buddhyoho adhisthane sadrupe brahmanepi pravrittehe anivaryatvat uktam na siddhyed. Anyatha ukta shabda buddhyo adhisthane sadrupe brahmani pravritte shabda buddhi. The word and the thought have only there and reach only as far as the name and form is concerned, ghatapada is concerned, but not adhisthana, not in Sat. So aniva nivartante, that's why. न च इयं श्रुतिः ब्रह्मादि शब्दानां मुख्या वृत्त्या सति प्रवृत्ति अभावं दर्शयति. न च इयं श्रुतिः ब्रह्मादि शब्दानां मुख्यावृत्त्या सति प्रवृत्ति अभावं दर्शयति. That even the word Brahma, word Atma, word Sat, all these also do not primarily apply to the truth. Meaning that word Brahman, so what is Brahman is not the meaning of the word Brahman. What is Sat is not the meaning of the word Sat. So these words Brahma, Nitya, Shuddha, whatever it is also, Mukhya Vrittya, so only by Lakshana Vrittya only. But Mukhya Vritti, no word actually describes Brahman. Is why Lakshana Vritti, that even Brahman, word Brahma also can describe Brahman. Natu Ghatadi Shabdanamiti. So Ghatadi Shabdanam Sati Protyabhavam Darshe. That's all you have to say. That Ghatapata do not really reach the Sat. Even Brahma also do not reach by only Lakshana Vritti. So it is word Brahma etc. by Lakshana Vritti reach Sat. But Ghatapata do not reach that also. Word Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Brahma, Asti, Bhadi, Priyam. All of these by Lakshana Vritti describe Brahma. But Ghatapata do not describe Brahma even by Lakshana Vritti also. That's the idea here. Vacho nivartante iti nivritti shabda swarasyat pruttanam eva nivritti vachya tatasya brahmadi shabdanam api upadi dvara pruttanam upadi nivritya shuddhe nivritti eva tadartha. That's exactly what it says. Yato vacho nivartante, that from which the words return iti. Nivritti shabda swarasyat. So what nivritti means? That it returns. Pravuttanam nivritti vachya. So when you use the word Brahman, when you use any word, then it returns. So what returns is what is employed alone can return. What is sent alone can return. Tatasya brahmadi shabdanapi upadi dvara pravuttanam. All these words Brahma etc. are from the stem upadi that we use them. Upadi nivritya shuddhe nivrityeva. When upadi is not there, nirupadike shuddhe brahmani, even the words of Brahma etc. they also return from there. Meaning that by Lakshana Vritti alone, Brahman is known. Sacha sanghatah ityadi shabdanam avishishta iti vivekanantaram abhidhanadi nivrittau ukta shruti pramanamiti bhaha. So that nivritti is what? Sanghatah ityadi shabdanam avishishta. So just as Brahma etc. do not apply, then Ghata etc. also do not apply. Iti vivekanantaram. When that viveka takes place, abhidhanadi nivrittau ukta shruti pramanam. Abhidhana, abhidaya, both of them are returned, meaning not applicable. That's what this shruti is. Until then, it's all words are all applicable. As long as Brahman is not known, so long word Brahma is applicable. As long as truth of Ghatapada is not known, so long the words are applicable. When Viveka takes place, when you realize that what there is Sat, Nirupadikam, Shuddham, then no word applies there and no thought applies there also. Otherwise, what will happen? Even in knowledge of Brahman, the word Brahman will remain. If the meaning of Brahman, if word Brahman actually meant Brahman, then in knowledge of Brahman, that word Brahman and thought Brahman will remain, which is not the case. Then every word and thought always is limited. The limitation will remain, which is not the case. They drop off. Like the world pole drops off and that fellow jumps, and so also these words drop off and the wise person or this jignasu recognizes, gains the truth. Atra shrutau manas shabdena abhideyam uchyate manovikartvat tasyeti. So abhidhana, abhideya. So yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasah. Vacha means abhidhanam, the name, and manas means what? Abhideya. Means object, because object is the modification of mind, projection of mind. The other one was anirukte, anilayane ityadi shrutibhyah. Anirukta, that which cannot be defined in words. Anilayana, that which doesn't have a support. So, what aniruktadi padabhyam cha abhidhana abhideyo abhavukta bhavaha. So anirukte, which cannot be described in words, means from where the word returns, and then anilayane, which doesn't have a support, which is not the support also, therefore the thought also returns. That's the idea there. So abhidhana abhideyo abhava ukta bhavaha. Okay. So Bhashyakara says that the words and the thoughts all apply as long as there is ignorance, so long these objects are given reality. But when the Viveka takes place, then when Sat alone is the real, then the words and thoughts have no pravrutti there. When the Viveka takes place. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om